Hello little buns, it is Steph. Welcome back to my home. I made a video a couple of weeks ago, couldn't have been more than a month ago, I don't know how long it's been, about my struggles with eating disorders and specifically bulimia. So I will be discussing that in this video. So that is your content or slash, trigger warning. If that's not something you can handle hearing about, then maybe don't watch this video. More than anything else, I do want you guys to know that I am doing well and that I am no longer taking those pills on a regular basis or at all right now. That does not mean that I have recovered. It does not mean that I'm out of the woods, but I have not been taking any pills for 2 weeks. And if you haven't watched the last video, I guess I should explain to you that I have bulimia. Okay. I always feel weird talking about this because it just sounds so, it's not a cute thing to talk about. There are a few different kinds of bulimia, and the one that I struggle with was laxative abuse. I would take 20 pills a day. You're supposed to take 1 or 2 a week. So there's a very clear overdosage happening there. And long term, what that can cause is basically a total failure of your digestive system. You pretty much have to force your body to expel waste after a certain point. And I'm lucky that I stopped before that happened. My body has returned to normal functioning. I do want to talk about all of the other effects though, like how quitting cold turkey kind of affected my body and withdrawal effects and, emotional side effects and things like that. Because it really is a lot more complicated than just, oh, you can stop. Because it's an addiction. And I relied on it for such a long time. But, I'm doing better and we're gonna talk about that. I do want to first basically say that I go to therapy twice a month. Typically, once every 2 weeks. And that really has helped me a lot because it's allowed me to deconstruct all of these subconscious ideas floating around in my mind that kind of allowed me or gave me permission to do this to myself. And I absolutely credit therapy with helping me with this. And that's not to say that I couldn't have done it without therapy, but it definitely is a lot easier when you can talk to somebody that doesn't know you, that's not biased, and that you can sort of deconstruct the ideas you have about yourself with them. For me, it wasn't about hardcore psychology and, treatment plans. That wasn't what I needed to start quitting. What I needed to start quitting was to understand why I allowed myself to engage in self-destructive behavior, because I knew that this was hurting me and I knew the long-term effects it could have, but I did it anyway. And I was like, why do I allow myself to do that? Why do I almost rely on that self-destructive feeling? I really wish that I recorded my therapy sessions, with my phone on audio record, because it would really make reflecting on all of this so much easier. But I basically realized that I'm so used to defending myself, growing up in that small town, being a queer person in a small town, and then, just wanting more than anything to escape it. I was so used to defending myself that I even defend myself against good things at this point. And if I'm not experiencing something that I have to defend myself against, I pretty much make a situation where I have to defend myself. This is something that I do because I don't know how to exist without being in some kind of conflict about me. And that's really bad. That's terrible. And that's not the only reason. I didn't take the pills because I wanted to be dramatic. It's not about that. Because there's another layer of, this is gonna go in a few different directions. Growing up in that small town, I was in not a great place socially. I didn't feel good in that town. It was not a good place for me. I was threatened. My property was vandalized. I really was not safe there. So I had this drive and this hope to get out of there for that entire time. And one day I was thinking in the shower, I was like, what is it that I'm missing? What is it that's making me so miserable that I'm doing these things to myself and that, I just don't feel good? What is it that I'm missing? And I remembered how good and creative and excited I was about life in high school. And I was like, okay, what was different? And the difference was I was struggling and I'm not struggling. And that, I guess, is why I don't care about things, is because I'm not experiencing trouble, which is bizarre. But I think acknowledging that that is the pattern of thought in my mind can allow me to basically fix it, that I can see that this is happening and I can say, no, that's not right, and I can do better. And then there's the element, and this one's real. This one's real as hell. And I think this is probably the most important to my recovery, is I have this almost disconnect from reality. And a lot of people that are super transphobic are gonna be like, well, obviously, because you're just like a woman and all this garbage. I mean, I don't have a disconnect with reality from my gender. The thing is, like I said, I'm so used to defending myself. I'm so used to not being enough that I don't realize I've made progress, that I don't realize that I am beautiful. And it's not consciously I'm like, yeah, I look amazing, especially right now. But it's a subconscious thing where it's somebody will say, oh, you look wonderful. And I'm like, do you think I'm stupid? In my head. I was at brunch with my mom and this stranger from the neighborhood said, she was asking what I did for work. She was like, are you a model? And in my head, I was like, do you think I'm stupid? I'm not small enough to be a model. I'm not tall enough to be a model. But I wasn't, the normal reaction to that is, oh, thank you. In your mind, that's sweet. That builds my confidence because she thinks I'm pretty. But in my mind, I ripped it apart. I took that compliment and I shattered it because I don't know how to take it. I don't know how to hear somebody say, you look great, and be like, thank you. Because I don't believe I will ever be good enough. And that is some serious shit, okay? And that is where all this eating disorder garbage is originating from, in my opinion. Based on all of the things that I've talked about in therapy, that is where this comes from. Because consciously, I know I am good enough, and I know I am beautiful, and I know I do pass, and I know all of this stuff consciously. I'm aware of all this stuff, but I just don't let myself internalize it deeply because I'm so used to shooting down everybody's opinion that a good one is still a threat. You know what I mean? Oh. Scary. Anyways, I think through a combination of all of that reflection in therapy and running out of the pills and not buying more, I think that's kind of what allowed me to start this quit cold turkey situation. What happened was I had one pill left. I took it at night. I said, first thing in the morning, I'm gonna go to Shoppers, I'm gonna get another box. And I was just so busy that I didn't have time to go get those pills. And somehow, I didn't feel that intense urge, that intense need. Because an addiction really is almost like your mind is so preoccupied with this substance. If you don't have it, you need it, and that's the only thing that you can think about. But somehow that day I didn't have that problem. And I went a full 24 hours without the pills, and I was like, okay, you know what? I'm gonna take advantage of this. I'm gonna do what's best for me, and I'm going to make a conscious effort to not take these pills. I'm gonna make a conscious effort to quit cold turkey. And I did. It's been 2 weeks. Again, I'm not out of the woods 100%, but I do feel much better. And a lot has changed for me and my body physically and emotionally and mentally. In my first video about this, I mentioned feeling really drained, like there was nothing inside of me, and there literally was not anything physically inside of me, but I felt like all of the emotional stuff went with it, that I was just a hollow, empty thing. And I can't say that I'm 100%, you know, opposite of that right now, but I definitely feel a little bit more excitement about doing things. I definitely feel a little bit more optimistic, and like there's things that I want to actively go outside of my house to do, whereas before I'd be content just sitting on my couch for a week. As for physical things, I have not actually gained much weight. I've gained maybe 5 to 10 pounds, which sounds like a lot in 2 weeks, but most of that is water weight, and it's not really visible. Water weight is mostly carried around your stomach area, and I do look a little bit thicker there, but it doesn't bug me, and I'm surprised by that. The conscious element of me taking those pills was that I wanted to shrink myself, and not in terms of fat or weight, because I never thought when I started taking them that I was fat. It wasn't about that. It wasn't about a weight issue. It was about musculature. It was about I wanted to make my body eat itself, to shrink it. Don't do that, first of all. That's horrifying. But, I mean, that was what I had in mind. I was like, I'm going to deprive my body of the fuel it needs so that it starts to eat itself. And when I feel like it's at a point that I like, I'll start eating properly again. The problem with this is, number one, that doesn't work with laxatives, because laxatives don't actually deprive your body of anything except for water. Number two is, even if it did work, there's a strong chance that the goal you have in mind for your body is unrealistic, and by the time you reach it, you're gonna be dead. So that's not okay. And then the third part is, again, sometimes your body just can't do that. I don't think my body will ever be as tiny and as, you know, delicate looking as XYZ woman, whoever, because my body's mine, and it's gonna be mine, and I'm gonna be shaped a certain way because it's just my structure. And I think finding a way to accept that is the healthiest thing to do, and that's way harder than it sounds. But this can be done with the help of therapy, I believe. And therapy can be very, very, very expensive, which is why I've partnered with somebody for this video. I use a mixture of my regular therapist I go to bi-weekly, as well as BetterHelp. BetterHelp has sponsored this video. Thank you so much. You're an amazing service. You are incredible. I love you. The main thing about BetterHelp that I like is it creates an accessible therapy. It makes therapy accessible to a much wider range of people because it doesn't have that huge price tag on it that you might normally experience when you go to places physically. The way it works is it's an online counseling service that's structured to fit your needs and your budget and your lifestyle, like your schedule. You sign up and you basically are matched with a counselor that fits you, that suits your budget, needs, schedule, etc. And that is just such a relief because a lot of people know that therapy can help them, but they can't access it because it's too expensive or it's too far away, or, you know, there's 1,000 reasons. And this kind of gets rid of those barriers for most people. So if you're interested in checking that out, I will put a link in the description box. It can be as low as $35 a week, which if you're getting, you know, weekly sessions with a regular counselor, that can be like $200 or $300 a week, depending on your area and your coverage and whatever. But this is still an amazing tool. And, you know, I know that if I'm struggling in between my bi-weekly normal counseling sessions, I have somebody that I can reach out to and get that help that I need, that you just can't get from somebody that knows you like a family member or like a friend. So no matter what it is you're struggling with, if you're struggling with an eating disorder like me, or, you know, depression or anxiety or whatever, there is a way you can get real help without destroying, you know, everything else in your life. And I think that's really valuable. So if you're interested, again, the link's in the description box. And thank you again to BetterHelp for sponsoring this video, because you really do help people, and that is amazing to me. Like I said earlier in the video, therapy allowed me to deconstruct those ideas that I had about myself subconsciously, like I will never be good enough, or like I need a conflict to exist. All of those ideas, I couldn't have found that by myself because I'm not looking that deep. And you might think, or I thought, that I was reflecting deeply, but I was never really getting past that little shell that subconscious built up so I wouldn't find it. You know what I mean? And in my experience, therapists just know how to ask the right questions to get you past that. And they do. Every time without fail that I'm having trouble, I have a breakthrough. And that is so much better than a relapse. It really is. Taking it back to recovery side effects, something that I guess I expected, but it still kind of surprised me, was when I got my hormone levels tested, it turned out that my estrogen had gone down and my testosterone had risen. The opposite of what I wanted to do, from May to November. And I started taking these pills sometime around May or June. So it makes perfect sense that the body, you know, would be flushed of my medication before it could absorb it. And I guess in my mind I figured because the body absorbs the calories of the food and the nutrients before the laxatives can flush it, then it must also absorb the pills. But I guess it's different because there's no other reason in the world that I would have those hormone level discrepancies if it wasn't involving those pills. The timing and everything, it just makes perfect sense. So that, I think, is a strong enough reason for me to not take the pills, or, you know, the laxatives, not my hormones, when I consciously and logically lay it out in front of me. If my goal is to shrink my body, but I'm just increasing my testosterone levels by doing this, that's not gonna help. And that's, you know, even if I didn't have guilt or shame about taking those pills, that I think would be enough because it's not going to help me achieve my goal. And I do have a degree of shame and guilt, but it's not the kind that keeps me quiet now. It's the kind that tells me, like, why did you do this in the first place? It's the kind that scolds me like a parent. And I think that's okay. I need that from myself. Otherwise, what's stopping me from relapsing, you know? Now, all this being said, I do have basically predisposed, oh, by the way, because my body was flushing estrogen, and now I've been on my estrogen for 2 weeks without those laxatives, these have grown a lot, ridiculously. What's up? I am happy. Thank you. Thank you. Hold on. Oh, I'm losing my mind. I need coffee. All that being said, back on track. I do believe I am genetically predisposed to eating problems. I believe that it is very easy for me to slip into other patterns of disordered eating. I have experienced every kind of disordered eating. It's just bulimia is the one that kind of really threatens me, because none of the other ones really last more than a day. And I'm grateful that I haven't slipped into a multitude of eating pattern problems, not just, you know, it's just the one, but I know that I'm vulnerable to those. So from here on out, it's a matter of, you know, maintaining this no laxatives rule for myself, and then also being very conscious and careful to not slip into other eating patterns. I do definitely have a lot of grappling with binge eating, which is a part of bulimia for me. Like the other night, I ate like enough pasta for like 6 or 7 people, and then I passed out for 4 hours. And normally what happens after I eat that much is I feel this like regret and guilt, and like, why did you do that? You know, you're in physical pain, and you know, this is just it's not gonna help you. You're wasting food because you don't need that much. I didn't feel that this time, probably because I slept, but it's still, that was absurd, and I never should have done that. And that's the kind of thing that I think I'm most vulnerable to, aside from bulimia. So we're gonna see what happens, but I'm gonna do my best. I'm gonna keep on going to my bi-weekly therapy. I'm gonna keep on, you know, if I have trouble in between, I'm gonna get my BetterHelp situation all figured out. And I think that I'm gonna do just fine. and I think you can too. So if you're struggling with something, especially an eating disorder, know that it's entirely possible to recover, and that recovery is not linear. And I made this mistake in my last eating disorder video where I said basically, I don't think this is the beginning of my recovery, because I think it really was. You know, admitting it to myself and to thousands of people was a way of holding myself accountable. Me-self accountable. Me-self. What is that? Is that Scottish, Irish? Who says that? I don't know. And I may not have quit cold turkey at that moment, but I absolutely started my recovery in that moment, and that is the most important thing. So you can do that too. I believe in you. You've got this. If you want to look into better help, again, the link is in the description box. But I encourage you to ask for help and to look for help and to ask questions that get you deeper than your excuses. You know what I mean? Because my excuses were plentiful and I had to destroy them before I figured out what was going on inside of me. With all that being said, you know, I love you so much. I will see you again soon. Until next time, just remember, you have the power to overcome, you know, these addictive addictions. Because really an eating disorder more than anything else is an addiction. And we can do it together. You've got this. I love you so much. Bye!